Hello everyone, I'm Garima Mishra and I'm here to present this paper, Social Media, Feminist Issues, Media and Information Literacy, an analysis of content creation and reception of the feminist issues on Facebook. The co-author of this paper is Madhumita Das, who is a research scholar at School of Journalism and New Media Studies, IGNOU. Now, introducing the idea and the rationale behind it. So the paper basically talks about the feminist issues on social media, which is very much linked by the concept of media and information literacy. Now, talking about the feminist issues basically arises from the gender inequality, which actually roots from the patriarchal structure of the society, which has been produced, reproduced, reinforced by the traditional media. But with the appearance of internet, it appeared to provide an egalitarian platform to everyone. So the social networking sites and internet became a platform for the marginalized voices. Now, the access to social media, the users of social media access, consume, and use content to build perception around the social issues. Now, this access, usage, and consumption is very much determined by the media and information literacy because it affects the creation of content and the reception of content, thus affecting the engagement and participation related to the issue and ultimately women empowerment. Now, when talking of specifically gender inequality, it has been long normalized by the society and it has values, ideologies, and power relations underneath. So, a very rational discourse is required in order to create awareness and bring its evils into the public realm. So, the paper actually uses research from all these specific areas and builds upon it. So the very first thing that we need to talk about is social media activism and feminist issues. So researchers have been arguing that Facebook and Twitter create online feminist communities and they nourish this feminist network and encourage online as well as offline mobilization related to issues of women. Now the online forums actually provide a platform where people can get political. Hence, social media platforms are very much crucial for women empowerment, but then again, this is determined by the media and information literacy, which appears to be a remedy for it. Now, when we talk of the skill-based approach to MIL, which talks about access, analysis, evaluation, and content creation, this seems to sync very much with the communicative rationality because this is how the idea of communicative rationality aims to actually bring about a mutual understanding and consensus in the public sphere by bringing about the critique of the arguments and presentation of the validity claims according to the Habermas's validity claims in an idle speech situation, which results into a rational discourse, and the four validity claims are truth, clarity, sincerity, and legitimacy. Now, this paper actually focuses on the content creation according to the skill-based approach to MIL and the engagement aspect of the EEE model of MIL. Now, the research objectives of the study is to analyze the Facebook posts of the feminist group for their message construction using Habermas's rational discourse and to explore the engagement of the people to feminist issues and its construction on Facebook. Now, the research questions have been split in order to answer two basic questions, which are that what makes up the messages that talk of the feminist issues and how does it affect the engagement process online. So these research questions will be talked of individually with the findings and discussions. So coming to the methodology part, so the sample were 2 Facebook pages, Kashmir Women's Collective and Northeast Network. Unit of analysis was Facebook posts and the reactions that the individual posts received. Sample size was 15 from 1st June onwards. Purposive sampling was done in order to do textual analysis with a mixed approach. That was qualitative analysis, which was done manually, and the quantitative part was done using LIWC and SPSS. Now, coming to the first research question that looks for the types of feminist issues that are being talked about. So basically, for KWC, it was social issues, and for NEN, it was economic and environmental issues, but collectively, social issues were more talked about, and these were the themes which were talked about. Now, Looking into the second question looks into the types of social media content being used on posts. So almost all the posts had written posts that were linked to an external content. Now, when we talk of MIL, the basic concern is to look for the source of the content. So basically, this is a range of the sources of the content, of which the portal that was specifically meant for women and news portals emerged as the main source for the content. Now, amidst this, it was important to find out if the posts make sense. Is it simple to understand? So there was no use of jargons or difficult words. The posts were written in a very simple language and was easy to understand. Now, from here onwards, we start looking into the rationality of the text using Habermas's validity claim. So we begin to look for truth, and we do this by looking for claims that establishes a cause and effect relationship, arguments produced, and the evidences provided for them. So the areas related to which the claims were made are these, and these are some examples of the claims that were made. Now, coming to the types of claims that were made. So we can find a combination of positive and negative claims. There were posts where we could not find any claims, but there were posts that used positive and negative claims individually as well as in combination. For the case of evidences, these are the range of evidences that were provided, and personal narratives and personal narrative studies, researches, and posts were mostly used for the type of evidences. Now, for the type of arguments being used, inductive as well as deductive arguments were found individually as well as collectively. Whereas inductive arguments were thought of as arguments that moved from specific instances to generalizations, while deductive arguments were that started from a generalized principle that was known to be truth and that ended into some sort of conclusions. So now looking further, now we look forward for the second validity claim, that is the sincerity part, into the text. And we do this by looking for connotations, denotations, emotional tones, cognitive processes which are being reflected from the text. So first of all, looking for the connotation part. So this was done manually, and the connotations that were basically found were was generally used for oppressive things. Now, for denotations, there were negative denotations as well as positive denotation. Negative denotations were less and positive more. Now, coming to the now to look forward for more sincerity into the text, LIWC scores was calculated for the text, and these are the scores that have been highlighted. So the things that were looked for were social words, positive emotion, negative emotions, and cognitive processes. And these were, now these are the scores for KWC, and this is for NEN. And these scores that shows of the individual post would later be used for a statistical correlation between these elements and the engagement part. This is the comparison of the average score of the every post studied and average social media posts. So the posts related to feminist issues showed more usage of social words and a lesser cognitive score for posts that talks of feminist issues, while emotional tones were sort of balanced. Now, further looking for the legitimacy claim. So here we looked for the attributions or mention of any authoritative sources into the text. So this is the list, and there were posts that did not mention any authoritative source. So for that, authenticity scores were calculated using LIWC, which looks for personal and honest accounts in the text. But authenticity score came out to be low because of the lack of personal words. Now coming to the reception part, finally coming to the reception part. So social and environmental issues received major attention, as it could be seen, as it is highlighted. This distribution was and segregation was done for the engagement numbers according to the gender in order to find out if there is a gender cohesion. So it is very clearly evident here. Now further, a Spearman test was done to find out the correlation between the LIWC score for sincerity and engagement. numbers, and only thing that was found to be affecting was the presence of social words. Now, putting all the findings together and coming up with answers. So what are the posts generally made up of? So almost all the posts reflected contemporary issues that are related to women, and almost all the posts were written in a very simple language and were found with additional links embedded to it, which brought some objectivity along with facts and subjectivity with the dimension of embodied knowledge to the post. Now, further analyzing the data to find out that how the group set up a rational discourse by analyzing the elements of rationality to it. So first of all, talking of the claims of truth. So here claims were made that established cause-effect relationship. This could be positive or negative depending upon the effect it predicts on women, and social issues basically highlighted trauma and abuse. So they were mostly associated with negative claims, while economic rights issues were associated with positive claims. Now, talking of evidences, subjective as well as objective evidences were provided in support of the claims. Then talking of arguments, mostly inductive arguments were present for NEN, and deductive as well as inductive, both were used for KWC, owing to the fact that KWC dealt more with social issues and incorporated a feminist methodology of embodied knowledge. Now, coming to the claim of clarity, so the ideas were put very clearly in a very simple language. Now, how sincere were the text? So for this, we found out that very few connotations, positive denotations, and positive emotional tone was there, and which actually left the message with less negativity, even when it was dealing with issues like abuse. Now, getting further, use of more social words and cognitive words leaves an impression of intimacy with the issue and agency of women, thus trying to achieve consensus through critique as well as reflections and solutions. For the legitimacy claim, only few mentioned the authoritative sources, while for the rest, the scores were really less. Now, analyzing the engagement of the post, we found out the first thing that was found out is there was a gendered pattern in engagement, and a strong gendered cohesion was evident. Second is the effect of rational elements on engagement. So claims, arguments stated clearly that more use of social words were found to be extremely popular. So this is the interpretation that I have discussed already. So despite gender cohesion to the feminist issue, posts that are constructed well with audiences in mind has attributes of truth, clarity, and sincerity seems to garner more attention and engagement. The study shows that along with rationality, relatability results into more engagement. Now, concluding the study, we can say that the online feminist group aims to encourage online as well as offline mobilization related to contemporary feminist issues, thus fulfilling the functional aspect of engage of the triple E model of MIL. This is being done by creating messages that has elements of rationality that are essentially clarity, truth, sincerity, and occasionally legitimacy and authenticity. On the receiver's end, a gender cohesion related to the issue is a determinant for engagement, followed by elements of sincerity like use of social words that increase the relatability to the post. Thus, a linguistic analysis of the message created by the feminist group on Facebook reflects MIL competencies, but the reactions from the audiences did not reflect so. Now, the recommendations and limitations, the sample sizes could be increased, it could be replicated for other areas. It studies only feminist issues, so conclusion cannot be extended to post for other purposes. The analysis is more linguistic and done by software, so other approaches could add further dimensions, and the study is extremely basic. And it can be extended further by involving the creators and the receivers of the message that would provide answers for the motivation and the detailed cognitive processes.